When a hive dies over winter, most beekeepers do the same quiet math in their head. A new package of bees runs somewhere around $150, so that's what it costs to fix. That number is wrong, and it isn't close. I sat down and actually broke out every real cost a dead hive creates. Not just the bees, but everything behind them. Every downstream expense that never makes it into the quick mental estimate. And the total changed how I think about every single mite count I take from here forward. Here's the full breakdown, dollar by dollar, with nothing left out. Let me start with the number everyone reaches for first, because it's the most visible one and the most incomplete. Replacing the bees themselves runs somewhere between $100 and $250 depending on whether you buy a package or a nucleus colony. A 3-pound package with a mated queen typically falls in the $100 to $200 range. A nucleus colony, which comes with drawn comb, established brood, and a laying queen already working, giving you a real head start over a package that arrives with nothing but bees and a caged queen, runs closer to $200 to $250, sometimes reaching $250 to $325 for premium mite-resistant genetics. That's the number most beekeepers stop at when they estimate the cost of a loss. It's also the smallest piece of the real total. Here's what actually gets left out of that quick mental math. Starting with the equipment cost that everyone assumes doesn't apply because I already have the boxes. If the colony died from something that leaves the equipment usable, simple starvation or a straightforward mite collapse, for instance, you may genuinely be able to reuse the woodenware and just replace the bees. But if the colony died from certain brood diseases, the responsible move is destroying or thoroughly sterilizing the equipment rather than reintroducing a new colony into contaminated comb. And that can mean replacing frames, foundation, and sometimes entire boxes. A basic hive setup, boxes, frames, foundation, bottom board, covers, runs $250 to $350 for a complete kit. Even a partial equipment replacement, a few boxes of frames and foundation, adds another $50 to $100 beyond the bees themselves that most loss estimates never account for. Then there's the honey that was in the hive when it died. A colony that starved or collapsed mid-season often takes stored honey down with it, sometimes contaminated by mold or moisture once the cluster fails and nothing is regulating humidity in the box anymore. Sometimes simply inaccessible if the colony that would have processed it into a usable harvest is gone. If that hive would have produced even a modest 40 pounds of honey across a season, and you're valuing honey anywhere close to current market rates, you're looking at honey prices that have climbed to around $3 a pound in recent reporting. That's close to $120 of product that never makes it to a jar, on top of everything else. Now here's the piece almost nobody puts a number on at all, and it's often the single largest cost in the entire equation, the lost season. A colony that dies over winter doesn't just cost you the bees and the honey from the year it died. It costs you the entire following season's productive capacity while the replacement colony rebuilds. A new package, or nuke, installed in spring is not producing a full honey crop that same year in most cases. It's drawing comb, building population, and establishing itself, often not reaching full production until its second season. That means the real cost of a winter loss isn't just this year's setback. It's frequently a full year of lost honey production layered on top of the direct replacement costs, which, at even a conservative 40 pounds a season and current pricing, is another $120 of production you don't get on a colony you're paying to rebuild from scratch. This is the cost category that turns a simple loss into something closer to a 2-year setback. Think about what the colony that died would have produced in year 2 if it had lived. A mature, established colony with drawn comb already in place, a proven queen, and a population that hits the ground running each spring instead of starting over. The replacement colony you're installing has none of that head start. It's essentially repeating a first year you already paid for once, except this time it's replacing lost value instead of building new value, which is a meaningfully worse trade even before you add up the individual line items. Layer in the ongoing annual costs specific to a rebuilding colony. A young colony typically needs more supplemental feeding through its first season than an established one. Commonly another $30 to $50 in syrup and patties, plus whatever mite treatment it needs in its first year, another $20 to $50. And the just buy a new package math has quietly grown from one number into 5 or 6 separate ones stacking on top of each other. Quick word before I continue. Everything I've learned about avoiding this cost entirely. The counting, the timing, the free methods that keep a colony from ever becoming a replacement cost in the first place. I gathered it all into the Hive Vault at daleshiv.com. The link's in the description below and on the channel page if you want it. This video's free and always will be. The Vault's just the long version for folks who want the whole thing. I won't mention it again. Let me put the actual total together, because seeing it as one number rather than a scattered list is where this really lands. Bees, package, or nuke, $150 to $250. Equipment replacement, partial to full, $50 to $350, depending on cause of death and what's salvageable. Honey that never got harvested from the dead colony. Roughly $100 to $150 at a modest 40-pound estimate and current pricing. Lost production the following year, while the replacement rebuilds, another $100 to $150 in foregone honey. Extra feeding and treatment costs specific to a first-year colony, $50 to $100. Add that up conservatively, and you're looking at $450 to $1,000 in real total cost for a single dead hive, not the $150 most beekeepers estimate in their head. And that's before counting the time cost. The hours spent sourcing a replacement, assembling or repairing equipment, and doing the extra hand-holding a brand new colony needs that an established one doesn't. There's a broader context worth knowing here too. During recent seasons with catastrophic industry-wide losses, agricultural economists tracking large-scale beekeeping operations found that even the conservative replacement estimate used in national loss surveys, about $200 per hive, based purely on the cost of a nucleus colony, was widely acknowledged as an undercount of the real economic damage once equipment, lost production, and rebuilding time were factored in. If professional operations with far better economies of scale still find the true number runs higher than the simple replacement estimate, the same gap applies, proportionally, to a backyard beekeeper doing this math for 1 or 2 hives. Here's why this number matters more than just being an interesting piece of arithmetic. It should change how you think about prevention. A sugar roll mite count costs about $2 in supplies and 10 minutes of time. A round of appropriate mite treatment, applied on time based on that count, typically runs $20 to $50. Set those numbers next to a $400 to $1,000 total cost of a dead hive, and the math stops being close. Spending $50 and a handful of 10-minute counts through a season to prevent a $1,000 loss isn't a marginal improvement. It's close to the highest return decision available to a beekeeper, and it's exactly the kind of decision that gets skipped because the visible cost, the time, the small treatment expense feels real in the moment, while the much larger cost of doing nothing stays invisible until months later when the hive is already dead. This is the same trap that shows up everywhere in beekeeping. The immediate, small cost of prevention feels like an expense. The much larger, delayed cost of neglect doesn't feel like anything at all until it arrives as a dead box in February, and by the time it arrives, it's too late to trade it back for the $50 version. Here are the mistakes people make when they think about this cost, beyond just underestimating the total. Mistake 1 is only counting the bees. This is the single most common miscalculation, and it's the one that makes losing a hive feel like a $150 inconvenience instead of what it actually is. Potentially several hundred to $1,000 once every downstream cost is included. Mistake 2 is ignoring the lost season entirely. A rebuilding colony's first year of reduced production is a real, calculable cost, not a footnote. If you're doing honest math on what a loss costs you, that lost year belongs in the total. Mistake 3 is treating prevention costs and loss costs as though they're in the same category. A $50 treatment and a $1,000 loss are not two versions of the same expense. One is insurance, the other is the claim you pay when you skip the insurance. Mistake 4 is not factoring equipment risk into the true cost. Depending on the cause of death, your existing boxes and frames may not be safely reusable, and assuming they always are, can turn a bee-only replacement into a full equipment replacement you didn't budget for. Picture doing this math before the season starts instead of after a loss. You know a sugar roll costs $2 in 10 minutes. You know a round of on-time treatment runs $20 to $50. You know, because you've actually broken it down, that the alternative, a dead hive, costs somewhere between $450 and $1,000 once the bees, the equipment, the lost honey, and the lost season are all counted honestly, rather than just glancing at a package bee price tag. That comparison isn't close. And once you've actually done the arithmetic once, it's hard to look at a mite count as optional ever again. The beekeeper who skips the count to save 10 minutes this week is not saving money. He's gambling $1,000 against a $2 bag of sugar and a jar. And most of the time, he doesn't even know that's the bet he's making. Drop a comment and tell me whether you've ever actually totaled up what a lost hive cost you, or whether, like most of us, you only ever counted the bees. I read every single one at Dale's Hive. And if you want the full prevention system that keeps this cost from ever showing up on your books, it's waiting in the vault at daleshiv.com, link in the description. Subscribe and turn on notifications, because next week we're breaking down the real cost of starting beekeeping from zero, dollar by dollar, the same honest way. A dead hive was never a $150 problem. Now you know the real number, and why the $2 bag of sugar is the best insurance policy in beekeeping.